as the household of God. Notice how he says this, a.k.a. Church of the Living God. Look at how he says this, verse 15. I'm writing so that if I delay, you may know how you ought to behave in the household of God, a.k.a. the Church of the Living God. What he is talking about here when he refers to household, Paul is talking about, he uses the word oikos, and it's a word that sometimes comes out house and sometimes household. What he is not talking about is a building. He is not talking about a place that has a foundation and it's got floors and it's got walls and ceiling. He's not talking about the building. He's talking about the house as it being the family. It is the household of God. Remember, he's talking to Ephesus. He's writing to Timothy at Ephesus. Paul also wrote to the church at Ephesus, and he uses the same term, household, and I want you to see how he's using it, because this is the frame of mind he's in as he's talking about this. Look at this with me. He says this, household to Ephesus. Now, therefore, you believers are no longer strangers and foreigners. You ever been a stranger or a foreigner somewhere? Sometimes being a foreigner is very difficult. It's like you don't know the culture. You don't know how to move, because if you do some things, you may be insulting somebody. You don't know how to put your face, because that may be an affront. So, you're not strangers, you're not foreigners, you don't have a language that doesn't communicate. He says, you're not strangers and foreigners, but you're fellow citizens with the saints. Those are the people who God has called to himself, who are believers. You're fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God. You get that? He's talking about the family. Look what he adds here in Ephesians when he says this. The whole the Father from whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named. And it's interesting because he says Father, and he uses this word family to mean it is the descendant of that Father. It's everybody has the image of the Father. Everybody has his name. Everybody has his image. That's what we have when we're in Christ. We become partakers of God's nature. Let me say this again. We become partakers of the divine nature. You know, there's no other people on the planet who's got God's nature except believers. And when they have God's nature, they become part of his household, his family. And we're not foreigners. We're not strangers. We don't know how not to act or how to speak. No. We've got this communication. We've got this spirit, even though there's all kinds of various gifts. The whole family. In heaven and in earth. Everybody. What he's talking about here is as the household, a.k.a. the church of the living God, not the one who's made up, the one who's there, the church of the living God is family. It's family. It's family. Some people think of it as an institution. Some people think of it as a club. It's where I go and hang out with some of my friends, and some of them aren't my friends, and some are my friends, and I hang out with those who are my friends. It's not a club. It's family. It's family. Because we all got the same divine nature, even though we all have got different touches. We need to build this thing. No, we need to say it like this. It should be done like, well, it just doesn't look right. So at all these different churches, it's the family, a.k.a. Church of the Living God. It's family. Well, those folks are just so formal, and I'm more laid back. Do you know there may be a reason for that in this body? Because there's a touch, you see. And if you lose that, then we are calling a birth defect down on the family. Don't lose that. Because it's family.